If you're looking to file a 501c3, stop and do these 5 things first in order to make sure that you are fundable quicker. This is episode number 5 in our Mission to Movement series, where we talk about how to take your mission and your passion and turn it into a movement where you have a fundable 501c3 that's sustainable. This is the Nonprofit Missionary podcast. My name is McQuiller, founder of Nonprofit Missionary, where we support faith-based nonprofits along their grant writing journey, whether that's just starting out, where you're looking to file a 501c3, which has been the focus of this series, or if you're looking to gain some extra funding through some grant writing services. If that's you and you're interested in that, head to our website at nonprofitmissionary.com, or you can send us an email, nonprofitmissionary@gmail.com, or hit us up on social media. We are at Nonprofit Missionary on all platforms. And I don't know if you knew this, you can actually do a DM via YouTube now. So you can also send a DM on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube. So this whole series has been about what we need to do prior to even filing a 501c3, or after we file a 501c3, what are kind of the next steps? And so the purpose of that is so that as you are filing, I want to help take a lot of the stress of like, am I doing everything right off of you? So this whole series is brought to you by our Mission to Movement package. It is a new offer that we are offering here at Nonprofit Missionary, where we can help you figure out what you need and where you are in the journey and help take you alongside so that as you are starting this nonprofit, you are in a much better position to get grant funding, to get individual funding. So if that's you, once again, nonprofitmissionary@gmail.com. We would love to have a conversation. So let's say you are a faith-based nonprofit and you are like, or you're a faith-based leader and you're like, I want to start a nonprofit. The first thing you're probably thinking is like, oh gosh, I have to file a 501c3. I have to ask people for money. And yes, that's important, because in order to actually make it work for you, not just like with the tax implications, but to give you that sense of credibility, you need the 501c3. But then also, like, if you're looking to get funding, grants aren't going to give to you unless you have a 501c3 for the most part. I know there's exceptions. I'm not going to really get into those here. And also individuals. I know most people don't give because they get the tax break, but that is a part of it. But we usually try to put the cart before the horse, and we're like, oh my gosh, I need to do all of these things. But I want you to take a second. This will probably end up being about 25, 30 minutes to just listen to 5 different things that you need before you even file that 501c3. If you have these 5 systems in place, filing the 501c3 is more of an afterthought, and you won't have to keep going back and forth and figure out, oh my gosh, do I need this? Do I need that? First thing is you need a clear mission statement. Having the system of a clear mission statement can change everything. I have a previous episode 4-ish years ago back with talking a little bit more about a mission statement. It is audio only, so I don't have the video of it. But I think it is important to have a very clear mission statement. There's a few things. Well, first of all, mission statements in general helps guide where your organization is going. It kind of gives you that sense of this is what we do and this is what we don't do. Because like a lot of people, they talk about mission statements as like, this is what we do. This is the direction that we're going. But part of the direction that you're going is, this is also the direction that we are not going in. That way, when grants come up, if there's a grant that doesn't fit your mission statement, then it's probably not the right grant for you. If there's a decision that has to be made about programming or personnel, if someone doesn't fit your mission statement, please don't add them to your team. I know that's a hard thing to say, and I know that's a hard thing to hear, especially if you have someone that's like passionate, qualified, but if they don't fit the mission that you have, it's going to be really, really hard for that relationship to work. Board members are included in that as well. The mission statement is the thing that helps guide your organization. Now, I just want to say a few things regarding mission statements that I think are important to keep in mind as a nonprofit leader. The first thing, your mission statement should be short. I've seen some mission statements that are paragraphs, and that's great, and I can see your passion in it. But having like a full paragraph as your mission statement doesn't necessarily work. Because the purpose of a mission statement is to guide your organization. If it's so long, how are people gonna know where to go? It's like when you're looking up something on GPS and you're trying to find your way, if the GPS just showed the dot of where you need to go and didn't show you how to get there, it'd be really hard to actually navigate it. It'd be like basically having like the map from the 90s and trying to figure it out. I think that's the same when you have a very long mission statement. It needs to be short, I would say within a sentence or two. That way people know where you're going and people within the organization already recognize this is the direction we're going in. I think that's something that's important. The other thing that's important is it should be something that can be memorized. And it's something that should be said a lot from the organization. I think when, like, the most effective mission statements that I see are the ones where it's not just the executive director saying it, it's when every staff member knows what it is. And I'll admit, sometimes with the coffee shop, I don't think I have a short one and people are like, oh, I think I know what it is, but we don't say it enough. And I think that's something I'm working on, is to help people say it more. But if it's short enough that people can understand it and people can memorize it, even if it's not verbatim, but they get the general gist of it, I think that's helpful. And for example, the mission statement for Nonprofit Missionary is to assist faith-based nonprofits on their grant writing journey. That's what we do. Whether you're starting out, whether you are well within your grant writing journey and you need some extra support, like that's what we're here for. And within the mission statement, you kind of see, like, this is who we're focusing on. We're focusing on faith-based nonprofits. And this is what we do, helping people on their grant writing journey. That doesn't mean that all we do is write grants. That's not all I'm doing for people, is writing their grants. I'm helping them to create strong funding systems so that if it's not grants, it can be other things. Because, like, if you're just starting out, yes, a grant helps, and I'll look for grants and I'll help in that way. But also having a fundraising plan is just as helpful. Having the right messaging to talk to individuals and having a fundraising plan, especially in the early stages, can be just as effective as having grants. So that's kind of where our mission statement lies. So if you're looking at mission statements, if you're like, I don't know what to do with it, yeah, sure, you can ask AI, but I would rather you start with this. Start with who you are serving, and what you do, and try to make it concise. As far as how broad it needs to be, that's kind of up to you. It's kind of up to your organization. But the point is to make it concise and something that people can memorize. If alliteration helps, it could be a thing. I know that's coming from a pastor, but I think having that sense of memorizing can really help. Because that way people actually know this is what we're doing and this is the direction that we're going. Because that's the point of a mission statement. Yes, you need a mission statement for pretty much every grant that I see. But it's more than just something that you need to copy and paste on a grant application. It's something that helps guide your organization. So the first system you need is a clear mission statement that everyone within the organization knows. The second is a board that is engaged. And I know that this is a lot easier said than done. I did a whole series on how to create boards and things to look for and things not to look for. Having a board that's engaged can be a huge game changer as far as starting out your nonprofit. Now, I've gone through a lot with boards. That was, I think, back in October. It's more recent. There are 3 videos with it. So if you really want to look at it, that's a good place to start. And I don't want to really belabor too much on boards, but your founding board is the board that helps kind of create the culture, along with obviously whoever's leading it, executive director, whatever you call yourself. but the board itself has to be engaged in the work. Does that mean that they have to necessarily volunteer their time there? It depends. It depends on how much you're asking for and all that. But having a board that's going to help you out will take so much of the burden of what you need to do off. First of all, part of a board's job is to fundraise. That is part of the job description of a board of directors. So if you have a board of directors that is not doing fundraising, don't be like, hey, you're not doing your job. But maybe we can approach that conversation of like, I need help with this, and that is something that I just need some extra support in. But having that board of directors that you already have can be a game changer. A few tips, because we're talking about starting a board of directors, a few tips that you want to keep in mind as you apply for your 501c3. Number one, find board members that are not directly related to you and or live with you. Typically that's seen as a conflict of interest, and if there are too many that live in the same location, the IRS might kick that out. Or if people all have the same last name or clearly related or something like that. According to, I believe, the IRS rules, being related to does not include in-laws. I believe according to their rules, it's people that are father, mother, sister, brother, son, daughter. And also like people that live within the same household. But that's not legal advice. Make sure you double check that. But you want people that are not necessarily, not only is that just a good practice, avoids conflict of interest and everything, but also if you're looking at, I'm trying to build a board not just to start, but to have a stronger fundable organization later, there's a lot of foundations that won't give if they see that the executive director is also the board chair. So try to avoid that. If they see that the entire board is just all the same family, try to avoid that. Because like foundations, they like to see diversity in people. Especially more recently, I've seen a lot of places asking, it doesn't necessarily affect your grant, but they ask if your board has enough people of color, if it's diverse with gender. Because also think about it, it might look weird if you are serving a minority population and your entire board is white. That's not to say that that's bad, but it looks like you might be out of touch. Because once again, like we're talking about how a foundation is going to see it, and the way that they see it is like they don't have anyone that's been a part of the process. They're just kind of coming in, especially like depending on if they ask for addresses and things like that. So it's not necessarily like a thing that can stop you from writing grant or getting grants, but they do look at your board makeup and they do ask the questions of, is this a conflict of interest? Is this a board that's fully engaged? Sometimes they'll even ask the question, does your board 100% give to this organization? Because if they don't, then sometimes it's an automatic no. So when you're selecting your board, it's important to have a sense of diversity. You can't have people that all have the same last name, live in the same address. The other thing that I think is important is you're trying to grow a board full of people that are passionate about what you do, not just people that want the position. So I would encourage you to take a look at the people that are very passionate about your cause, more than the people that have the power and the money behind them. Not to say that like having strong fundraisers, like that's important. And I think you should have that. And I think if you can connect with someone and they understand like what the role of a board member is, that's great. It's a game changer. And also having someone that can rally behind you and pray for you and be there for whatever you may need is just as important. So you have to have that board that's engaged, not just a board that can give you the yes or the no. Like you want people that are a part of the process. People that are, let's say if you're starting this nonprofit as like an outreach of your church, find the people in your church that are passionate about what you do. So number 2, having a board that's engaged. That's a big system. Number 3 is having a basic budget. I don't know if I've ever done an episode on budgeting per se. I think I might have, but that might be something in the future. But sometimes budgets can be very overwhelming for people. And I want to kind of take a little bit of the stigma off. As you're starting, you're not going to get the budget right the first time. I mean, if you do, good for you. It's just really hard to predict how much money you need to spend on really everything. Because like you can probably predict salaries. You can look up median incomes on whatever. But even like supplies, it's really hard to calculate. Utilities, rent, equipment, like it's hard to have a good gauge on how much everything costs. Do your research, figure it out, estimate costs, but it's important to track it from the beginning. And I think when I say basic budget, don't try to have every single little thing figured out. Like roughly how much is it going to cost for utilities? How much is it going to cost for rent? Supplies, equipment, personnel. Keep it very, very simple. And then from there, you can kind of project how much money you need to fund this thing. So let's say you come up with a $50,000 figure. Personnel is $25,000 because they're only paying a part-time program director. Supplies, equipment, rent, and utilities. $50,000. How are you going to raise that money? Part of it will probably be in-kind donations because people love to give away stuff, especially depending on what you're doing. Because like, let's say if you're doing like homeless ministry, you get a lot of in-kind between like clothing, food, all that stuff. But then like individuals, create the funding that you may need for that. Like whether that's doing like a fundraising dinner, having one-on-one meetings, doing a monthly giving campaign, but have like an estimate, okay, maybe it'll take me $5,000 to do that. And then figure out like what grants you may need and what grants would fit in that dollar amount. Once you have all of that, keep it there and track it for the year. Because then once you have what your expenses are for 1 year, you can kind of use that year to predict the next year. But you have to have a budget. You can't just be like, I'm just gonna guess this is what we need. If you have a budget, then you know, first of all, whether or not you've made or missed your mark. But then secondly, it saves you a lot of time with grants. If you have a basic budget and it's approved by your board, it's probably the other step, once again, why you need an engaged board. Then you can have that sense of this is what we need. And when you approach a foundation, you can kind of show this is all the things that we're planning on doing. And this is the piece that you can make a difference in. And I think when they see that, they can kind of see themselves as a part of the mission of what you're doing. Also, you can take that same approach with individuals where you need $5,000 and they're like, well, if I give $1,000, this is the part that I'm doing. It's a good way to continue to bridge that gap. So having a basic budget can be a game changer. Make sure you have that system. However you do a budget, whether it's Excel sheet, whether it's using a program, whatever, just have something. Like I said last week, it's better to have a system. It's not necessarily finding the best system. The best system is the one that works for you. Number 4, the next system that we need is a basic communication plan. How are you going to communicate with the people about what you're doing? Are you doing email? Are you calling people? Snail mail? Social media? You probably need a combination of all of those things, but what does it look like? How often are you communicating? What are you communicating? What are you not communicating? With that, especially in our day and age, how much of that can we use AI for? Can we not use it at all? Are we doing videos? What do we need to make sure that people know about what we're doing? And not just the donors and the volunteers and the board, but also how do you get the word out about, hey, we're doing this awesome ministry where we're helping people in this area. If you need help, come. Because if you have that strategy and you're intentional about it, it can just make it a lot easier. Even if at first it's all on the executive director to do, You know how easy it is to pass that on to somebody else, whether a volunteer or a development director or whatever, when you already have the system in place and you're like, here, having that simple communication plan. It doesn't have to be like that robust. And I would say start out with less because you can always increase. It's hard to be like, oh, I'm going to do a weekly newsletter. And then 3 weeks into actually doing the programming, you're like, oh my gosh, I can't do a weekly newsletter. Start with a rhythm and a cadence that works well for you now. And then as you grow, as you can build other people onto the team, as you can get volunteers to help you with some of the administrative stuff, as you, I don't know, build up an AI system or something like that, then you can start increasing it. But make it simple. How you're communicating with donors, I think it's really important to say thank you to people that give. How you're communicating with your board, how you're communicating with your staff. You don't have to figure it all out, but make it simple, have the frequencies and have that cadence so that as you start this out, it's already settled. And the last thing, this one will be a kind of a quicker one, early success stories. Have the system where you get testimonies and you get stories. I think some of the most powerful ways of communicating, whether you're talking about living on your website, in an annual report, whatever it might be, is having those stories from people that have been changed by your ministry, by your organization. Because then you can be like, we're like this person, and this is the work that we do. If you want to support people like this. And then it doesn't have to be fancy edited work. Like the footage can just be on an iPhone, especially iPhones now. I was trying to upload pictures for a grant yesterday, and the pictures from my iPhone were giving too high quality. So I had to lower the resolution on my computer in order to send it to said organization. So like the iPhone will do what you need it to do, even if it's not the biggest and the latest. You don't need fancy equipment. Yeah, does it help? Does it make it look more professional? Yeah. Does it help maybe to be able to hire someone? Yeah, we've done that for our after school program. And we've had they made us a few great videos, and it's awesome. And also I'm saying you don't necessarily need that. Is it great to up your professionalism? Yeah, but like if you can't afford it, don't think that you have to. But having the success stories is important. If you feel weird about saying like, oh, well, Joe is homeless and always slept in his car, and then we helped him, like, and it makes him feel bad, you can take small quotes and not use their name, or you can alter the story a little bit and change their name. I've seen that with some books where the author is a therapist and he's talking about some of his clients and like some of the stories that they had. He always says, yeah, like the names I changed, the location, and I changed a little bit of their story to keep anonymity. And if that's what you want to do, I totally understand that, especially when you're working with vulnerable people, especially when you're working with people that could be in danger based on how the story goes out there. I think of the missionaries that are overseas in sensitive areas. Whenever it's a sensitive area, they're not listed like as missionaries. They're not listed where they do missions work, just to keep them safe, their family safe, and everything. But having those success stories is important. Having proof that you've done something is something that grant makers want to look at, and also not just like for grants, but also for people that want to get involved in the organization, whether it's with giving, whether it's with serving, whatever. Early success stories can really help. So as you are looking to file your 501c3, have a process on how you get that. Maybe that's just doing surveys with people, because then you can just pull quotes and be like, so-and-so ministry changed my life, or I love coming here, something like that. Because like I think when we look at how we are starting a 501c3, we have to recognize that every single piece of what we're doing is stewardship. And if we're not stewarding our resources, if we're not being clear about the direction we're going in, if we're not being clear about where we're doing with our finances, our board, and everything like that, then we're missing out on what God has. And I just want to encourage you in this way. Don't build your ministry around your funding, thinking like, oh, and funding and paperwork. If we build a healthy ministry first, the funding will come because God provides. And the paperwork will be easy because if you build all these systems first, the paperwork is just following what you're already doing. So if we're looking to start a nonprofit, if we're trying to create a movement, I think we need to have these 5 systems in place. So if you need support with that, once again, nonprofitmissionary@gmail.com. I want to help you out. And really wrestling with the idea of how we can deal with the tension of we're running a business and also this is a ministry. Because I've been seeing a lot of content recently about whether or not pastors should be making salaries. I think that they should. The Bible's pretty clear that anybody that works in the gospel should be benefited from the gospel. That's not to say that bivocational pastors are bad and all that. I just think that as a church, we should try our best to support our pastor. But also I feel like sometimes we live in the tension of people are so concerned that we're making too much money. So as a result, people try not to make any money and it just becomes a mess. And I've been really wrestling with the business versus the ministry side. And I think that sometimes we see those as 2 separate things, but God is calling them to come together. Your nonprofit should be financially stable so that people can make a living off of it. Now, if you're greedy about it and you're like, man, we just need to all be making 7-figure salaries, that's something different. But don't shy away from saying that I'm really passionate about this work and I want to make this my full-time work. Because for me, as a nonprofit consultant, I love doing this. I love being able to just share what I've learned and share my heart and teach people some of the tools that I've had. I think that's something that God's placed in me from a very early age, is that heart of teaching somebody else, especially if they're I don't know what's happening. That's happened a lot in my life. And I think it's also okay to say, yeah, you can make a living off of it. So I don't know, maybe someone's struggling with that today. Maybe they're struggling with people saying, well, you shouldn't be making money off of this. Or if you're a pastor and someone's like, well, pastors should never make a salary. You can very respectfully say, I disagree. Because I think someone that is not worried about their finances and also being paid by the church full time is a much focused and a much better rested pastor. Because think about it, doing the work of a pastor, of a senior pastor, is in and of itself a full-time job. And then if you need to do another full-time job on top of that in order to pay the bills, that is a lot of work. And that's where pastors can get burnt out. That's where pastors can start preaching crazy stuff. That's where pastors can really lose their sense of who they are. That's not to say every bivocational pastor is bad. I do think God calls some people to be in the marketplace because it gives them a sense of recognizing who the people are, and it gives them a good in. And I'm not saying all bivocational pastors are bad. What I am saying is, what is your philosophy on money? What is your focus? Because if your focus is to just make a living, then however you do it, there's nothing wrong with it. But if your goal is to make a killing, then I'd be careful. But in the end, I think it's important to just have that tension and recognize that there is a tension and figure out what you need to do about it. But until next time, stay focused, stay funded. God bless you.